Hey there, focused learners, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am incredibly excited to be with you today because, well, we're going to completely demystify how learning actually works in the human brain. We are going to break down exactly how you can learn pretty much anything faster and way more deeply using a truly legendary framework. So if you want to transform your brain into a literal knowledge-absorbing weapon, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it. Here is our cognitive syllabus for today. First, we'll cover the illusion of learning. Then, meet the great explainer, followed by the core 4 steps. After that, we'll hit advanced Feynman tactics and wrap up with making the knowledge stick.
All right, section 1, the illusion of learning and why standard studying fails.
Before we build a new way to learn, we really need to acknowledge a painful reality, right? Many of us put in hours, literally hours of hard work, only to sit down at the moment of truth and just draw a complete blank. Be honest with me here. Have you ever looked at your study materials, told yourself, yeah, I totally studied it, I've got this, but then, if a friend took your notes away and simply asked you to explain it, your brain immediately went into Windows shutting down mode? It is so frustrating. It feels like fake studying. But the thing is, it's not because you aren't capable. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how the brain works. And that brings us to a really crucial concept, the illusion of competence. This is basically when we mistake the mere recognition of information for actual deep understanding. You know, when you read a book or highlight your notes, your brain is just recognizing the material. It feels super familiar, so your brain says, hey, I know this. It creates this massive false sense of security. But as we all find out the hard way, recognition is definitely not understanding.
Which perfectly illustrates our core problem. The brain doesn't learn by just passively consuming information. It learns by reconstructing it. It's like a giant puzzle. That is exactly why silent reading or just mindlessly taking notes fails you when it's time to actually perform. True learning is an active, kind of uncomfortable process of taking concepts completely apart and putting them back together in your own mind.
Moving right along to section 2, meet the great explainer. Let's look at Richard Feynman's philosophy. Richard famously said, there are no miracle people, there's no talent or special miracle ability to understand quantum mechanics that comes without practice and reading and learning and study. I just love that. He firmly believed in the idea of putting in 10,000 hours of deliberate effort. He was constantly emphasizing that achieving great things requires intense work and study, not some innate magical gift you're just born with. So who exactly was he? Well, Richard Feynman was a 1965 Nobel Prize winner in physics, but honestly, more importantly for us, he was widely known as the Great Explainer. Even Bill Gates cited him as the absolute greatest teacher he never had. Feynman built this immense credibility by flat-out refusing to hide behind fancy jargon. He worked tirelessly to boil down incredibly complex subatomic math into everyday, approachable language. Oh, and his best piece of psychological advice? Never compare yourself to others. Only compare yourself to who you were a year ago. Okay, section 3, the core 4 steps, a framework for true understanding. Now we're going to break down the actual mechanical framework of his legendary method. It's a simple sequence. Step 1, identify the topic you want to learn. Step 2, explain it simply. Like literally imagine you're teaching it to a 12-year-old who doesn't share any of your base assumptions. Step 3, find your knowledge gaps. When you stumble, and you will, that's exactly where you need to jump back to the source material. And step 4, simplify and remove jargon. Just strip away all that complex vocabulary until the fundamental logic shines through.
Now, what's really interesting here is how textbook memorization cosplay pits itself against stupidly simple, everyday logic. Think about a textbook definition of photosynthesis. You know, plants converting light energy into chemical energy. It sounds super smart, right? But your brain stores meaning, not just sentences. The Feynman approach is wildly different. Plants eat sunlight. Sunlight goes in, energy comes out. If you're relying on the textbook version, you're probably just memorizing words. That simple version, that is true understanding. Let's look at another contrast, this time with cell division. Imagine hearing, microtubules depolymerize to pull sister chromatids apart to the centrosomes. I mean, wow, that is absolutely loaded with jargon. What even is a centrosome, right? Or a microtubule? Now strip all that complexity away. Condensed genetic material is pulled to separate sides of the cell. By ripping out the heavy jargon, you actually force your brain to comprehend the mechanics of what's happening, rather than just parroting complex terms to sound smart.
Moving into section 4, advanced Feynman tactics. Let's level up your execution. So implementing the Feynman technique isn't just a casual do-it-once kind of exercise. If we really want to learn 10 times faster, we have to dodge the common study traps that snare average learners. Just compare an average learner to an elite one.
Average learners waste so much time just reviewing what they already know, and they tackle things in the order of what, how, and then why. But elite learners, they're hunting for the gaps, the stuff they don't know, and they flip that script, ordering their learning by why, how, and then what. The brain remembers causes way better than simple definitions, which is exactly why starting off by figuring out the why is a total game changer. So here are a few rapid-fire advanced tactics for you. First, speak out loud. Silent studying is incredibly dangerous because your brain can totally fake clarity. Speaking out loud acts as a built-in lie detector. If you hesitate, boom, that's your brain identifying a gap. Second, avoid taking notes on notes. It's just highly inefficient. Third, compress your knowledge. Try turning 5 pages into 5 lines, and then distill that down into just one sentence. Find that exact bottleneck sentence you struggle with and fix it. And finally, if you want to lock the whole shebang in for sure, go teach it to a real live person.
But hey, here is a massive warning for you. You shouldn't be learning something for the very first time using the Feynman technique. Seriously, don't half-ass the initial work. Actually, scratch that. You need to deliberately read the chapter or watch the lecture first to get a foundational grasp. If you try to apply this technique to a concept you haven't even attempted to understand yet, you're basically just going to actively solidify wrong information in your brain, and nobody wants that. Finally, Section 5, making the knowledge stick for long-term retention. Okay, so imagine you've just spent an hour beautifully simplifying a really complex topic using the Feynman technique. We have to make sure all that incredibly hard work isn't totally wasted. And the crucial point to remember here is 2/3. Studies show that we lose up to 2/3 of the information we learn just 48 hours after learning it. Think about that. If you just stop the moment you've mastered your simplified explanation, your brain is still going to toss most of it out by the end of the week. Let's visually reinforce this stark data point. That massive 67% chunk of lost information after just 2 days, that highlights exactly why relying purely on the Feynman technique without a dedicated follow-up strategy is a massive mistake. You absolutely have to consolidate that understanding. And here is exactly how you cure that 48-hour memory drop. You combine the Feynman technique with spaced repetition. Instead of making dozens of tiny fragmented flashcards, create just one flashcard for the broad topic you just mastered. Make the prompt something like, explain topic, Feynman style. Then just write your incredibly simplified, jargon-free explanation on the back. When you review that card over the coming weeks, you're forcing your brain to reconstruct the core logic every single time.
Well, that brings us to the end of our explainer, but I want to leave you with this provocative challenge right now. Can you teach the core concepts of this very explainer to a friend today without looking at any notes? Because if you can't, congratulations, you've just found your first knowledge gap. I challenge you to go apply the Feynman technique today, test your understanding, and finally conquer the illusion of competence for good. Happy learning, everyone.